God cannot bless what you refuse to define because clarity is the doorway through which blessings enter your life. Most people are asking for opportunities, asking for a new season, asking for transformation, but they haven't even decided what they want. They wake up thinking one thing on Monday, something different on Tuesday, and by Friday, they've forgotten what they said they were committed to. When you live like that, you send mixed signals into the world and mixed signals to God. You want favor, but you won't create focus. Ooh, you want growth, but you won't give yourself direction. Blessings need a target, and confusion keeps you from creating that target. Think about a GPS. It cannot guide you until you choose a destination. It doesn't matter if the satellite connection is perfect, the map is updated, and the route is clear. The system can't help you until you type in where you're going. That's exactly how life works. God is not withholding the route. You haven't chosen a destination. You must define what you want spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, and personally. When you fail to define these things, life becomes a cycle of random choices, random relationships, opportunities, and random outcomes. Randomness is the enemy of purpose. Blessings are not random. They are intentional. Purpose is not random, it is intentional. And the minute you get intentional, life begins to shift in your favor. Most people avoid defining what they want because clarity requires responsibility. When you say, this is what I want, you also admit, this is what I must now work for. Ambiguity is comfortable because it allows you to escape accountability. If you don't define success, you never have to measure your progress. If you don't define growth, you never have to confront your stagnation. If you don't define who you want to become, you never have to release who you currently are. So confusion becomes a hiding place. Lack of clarity becomes a shield from commitment. But that same confusion you're using to protect yourself is the very thing blocking your blessings. God blesses alignment. When your intentions, your actions, your habits, and your decisions line up with your purpose, doors open because you are moving in one direction mentally and spiritually. Blessings look for order, not chaos. They look for structure, not scattered energy. They look for purpose, not procrastination. When you are clear, you become easier to bless because you know what you're asking for, and while you're asking for it, your prayers become specific. Your actions become focused. Your faith becomes anchored. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Clarity also changes how you behave. When you are clear about what you want, you stop entertaining distractions. You stop attaching yourself to people who drain your energy. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop trying to fit into spaces that shrink you. You stop chasing validation from people who don't even know who they are. Confusion makes you available to everything, but clarity makes you unavailable to nonsense. Clarity gives you permission to protect your peace, your time, and your future. When you know what God placed inside you, you stop giving pieces of yourself to things that don't grow you. Clarity also changes your identity. When you define what you want, you automatically define who you must become to receive it. If you say you want a disciplined life, you must become a disciplined person. If you say you want financial freedom, you must become someone who respects money. If you say you want love, you must become someone capable of giving and receiving it. Blessings demand transformation, and clarity begins the transformation process. You cannot walk into a new season with an old mentality. You cannot expect new blessings while carrying old habits. You cannot expect elevation while holding on to behaviors that belong to a lower level of your life. When you define what you want, you also expose the areas where you are out of alignment. You begin to see the gaps between who you are and who you're called to be. That awareness is not meant to discourage you, it is meant to empower you. Because once you see the gap, you can bridge it. Once you see the problem, you can solve it. Once you see the distraction, you can remove it. Once you see the confusion, you can eliminate it. And once confusion leaves your life, blessings finally have room to enter. Clarity is not just knowing what you want, it's knowing why you want it. The why behind your goals gives them spiritual weight. It makes your purpose non-negotiable. It turns desire into determination. It turns dreams into discipline. When you know why something matters, you stop quitting when things get hard. You stop running when life gets uncomfortable. You stop doubting yourself every time you face resistance. Your why becomes the anchor that keeps you steady in storms and grounded in pressure. Confusion is the silent enemy that steals your elevation because you cannot rise while your mind is divided. Your heart is conflicted and your direction is unstable. When you are double-minded, nothing in your life can move consistently. You move 2 steps forward, then 2 steps back. You make progress for a moment, then sabotage it because doubt enters, fear enters, or someone else's opinion distracts you. Elevation requires stability, and stability only comes when you make a firm decision about who you are, what you want, and where you're going. You cannot grow while holding on to multiple identities. You cannot succeed while trying to please multiple worlds. You cannot elevate when you're split between purpose and comfort. Most people don't realize that confusion is not always loud. It's not chaos on the outside. Sometimes it's the quiet storm on the inside, the whisper that says you're capable and the whisper that says you're not, the part of you that wants to change and the part that still loves your excuses. The version of you that believes in the dream and the version that is terrified of the responsibility. That internal conflict becomes a cage. You're not imprisoned by lack of potential. You're imprisoned by lack of clarity. And every time you try to step forward, the confusion pulls you back because you haven't fully chosen a direction. When you decide who you are, the battle stops. But as long as you remain undecided, everything in your life remains unstable. You keep changing your mind. You keep changing your plans. You keep changing your circle, your routines, your dreams. Confusion makes you inconsistent, and inconsistency is the killer of elevation. Elevation requires repeated action. Elevation requires sustained focus. Elevation requires discipline over time, not in bursts. A confused person can be motivated today and defeated tomorrow, but a clear person stays committed regardless of how they feel. People think God is delaying their blessings, but often the lack of clarity is the real delay. God cannot elevate someone who doesn't know which mountain they want to climb. He can't open doors for someone who hasn't decided which door belongs to them. You want opportunity, but you haven't committed to a direction long enough for the opportunity to find you. Even blessings require alignment. A blessing misused becomes a burden. If confusion dominates your life, you will mishandle the very things you pray for because you won't know how to use them. When you get clear, you begin to walk with authority. You stop acting like life is happening to you and realize life is responding. People treat you differently because clarity carries confidence. You talk differently because clarity gives you conviction. You make decisions faster because clarity gives you principles to measure everything against. You stop letting people talk you out of your purpose because clarity gives you a backbone. Confusion makes you a follower. Clarity makes you a leader of your own life. Look at how much energy confusion drains from you. You spend time worrying, overthinking, planning, unplanning, committing, and uncommitting, saying yes, then regretting it, saying no, then doubting it. Confusion doesn't just slow you down. It steals your strength. It exhausts your spirit. It blinds you from opportunities because you're too focused on indecision. And while you're wasting time in uncertainty, someone with half your talent but double your clarity is passing you. Clarity is a competitive advantage. It's not the smartest or most talented who rise. It's the most focused. Getting clear means confronting the truth you've been avoiding. It means admitting what you truly want, even if it scares you. It means acknowledging what no longer fits your life, even if you're attached to it. It means choosing a direction and letting every area of your life align with that direction. That might require letting go of people who keep you confused habits that keep you stagnant, environments that keep you distracted. Confusion thrives in spaces that encourage indecision, so you must separate from anything that creates mental noise instead of mental clarity. When you truly get clear, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop entertaining doubts that used to control you. You stop letting fear have the final word. You stop saying, maybe the things you know you should say a no to. You stop living divided. Your energy, your focus, your intention, all of it moves in one direction. That's when momentum starts. That's when progress compounds. That's when God starts moving blessings toward you because clarity signals readiness. And the truth is, clarity is a choice, not a gift, not luck, not a moment of inspiration. It is the courageous decision to eliminate everything that contradicts your purpose. It is waking up each day and reminding yourself who you are, what matters, and where you're going. Your environment, your habits, and your relationships must align with your purpose because nothing grows in soil that works against it. You can have all the talent, all the ambition, all the potential in the world, but if the space you're planted in is toxic, distracting, or unfocused, you will stay stuck at the same level. People underestimate how much their surroundings shape their decisions, their mindset, their energy, and ultimately their destiny. You may think your environment doesn't affect you, but every conversation, every routine, every relationship is either pushing you closer to your purpose or pulling you away from it. Nothing in your life is neutral. Everything is either adding or subtracting. You can't ask for clarity while living in clutter. You can't ask for discipline while surrounding yourself with distractions. You can't ask for success while spending your time with people who have no desire to grow. Your environment is either training you or draining you. It's either building you or breaking you. It's either sharpening you or softening your standards. If you stay in places where mediocrity is normal, excellence will always feel uncomfortable. If you spend time with people who fear growth, your growth will always feel like betrayal. Sometimes the problem is not you, it's the environment you keep trying to bloom in. Habits are the hidden architecture of your future. You don't rise to the level of your dream. You rise to the level of your habits. You can pray for success, speak affirmations, write goals. But if your daily habits contradict your purpose, the results will always reflect your routine, not your intention. A person who says they want transformation but wakes up late, scrolls for hours, complains, procrastinates, and reacts to life instead of directing it is living in conflict. Conflict with purpose leads to confusion. Confusion leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to frustration. And frustration leads to blaming circumstances instead of confronting habits. Every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. The smallest habits, how you think, how you talk to yourself, how you start your day, how you spend your time, shape your direction long before the big opportunities arrive. People want big blessings, but maintain small standards. They want new levels, but keep old patterns. They want the reward, but resist the routine that produces it. Elevation requires habit alignment. If your purpose demands discipline, your habits must reflect discipline. If your purpose demands leadership, your habits must reflect leadership. If your purpose demands excellence, your habits cannot reflect inconsistency. Then there are relationships, some of the most powerful forces in your life. The people around you either support your purpose or sabotage it. They either push you up or pull you down. They either believe in your growth or feel threatened by it. You cannot get clear about your purpose while staying connected to people who thrive in confusion. You cannot walk into your future while dragging relationships from your past. You cannot elevate while staying tied to people who are committed to staying exactly where they are. The wrong relationships don't just slow you down, they distort your vision. They make you doubt yourself. They distract you from your path. They make you settle for less because settling keeps the relationship comfortable. Some people cannot go with you because their presence comes with a cost. The price might be your peace, your focus, your ambition, your energy. And if you have to sacrifice your purpose to keep the relationship, that relationship is too expensive. God often removes people before blessings arrive because certain personalities cannot handle your elevation. Their insecurity, jealousy, negativity, or complacency becomes a barrier between you and what God is trying to give you. If someone constantly drains you, confuses you, distracts you, or convinces you to shrink yourself, that relationship is no longer aligned with your purpose. When relationships shift, don't fight it. Sometimes it is divine alignment taking place behind the scenes. Alignment is not about perfection, it's about direction. Your environment, your habits, and your relationships don't have to be flawless. They just have to be moving in the same direction as your purpose. Even small changes create massive momentum. Cleaning your physical space clears your mental space. Adjusting your morning routine changes your entire day. Reducing time with negative people increases your clarity. Reading for 10 minutes a day strengthens your mindset. Saying no more often protects your time. Every aligned adjustment brings you closer to the version of yourself that God intended. If you want a blessed life, you need blessed habits. If you want a focused mind, you need a focused environment. If you want a peaceful spirit, you need peaceful relationships. Purpose thrives in structure. Blessings thrive in order. Minded living keeps you stuck because you cannot walk into your destiny while your mind is divided. You cannot hold two directions, two identities, two sets of values, two levels of commitment and expect your life to move forward. A double-minded person lives in a constant state of spiritual and emotional tug-of-war. One moment they want success, and the next moment they retreat into comfort. One moment they believe in themselves, and the next moment they question everything. One moment they are disciplined, and the next moment they go back to old habits. Nothing can grow in a life that shifts every day because progress depends on consistency, and consistency cannot exist without decision. When you live double-minded, you create internal conflict. You say you want change, but your actions stay the same. You say you want clarity, but you keep entertaining confusion. You say you want elevation, but you continue to engage with things that pull you down. That contradiction weakens your spirit. It drains your energy. It makes you doubt your purpose because you're trying to live two different stories at the same time. And the truth is, you cannot rise while carrying a version of yourself that belongs to your past. So long as you keep one foot in growth and the other foot in comfort, you will remain stuck right where you are. Double-minded living is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides behind excuses that sound reasonable. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. You say you're waiting for the right moment. Yeah. You convince yourself you need more confidence, more resources, more motivation. You say you're tired, stressed, overwhelmed, busy. Meanwhile, the real issue is that you haven't made a firm, non-negotiable decision about who you are becoming. You are trying to change your life without changing your mind. You are trying to create transformation while keeping your options open. That is why nothing sticks. That's why nothing shifts. That's why nothing shifts. That's why you keep repeating cycle. A double-minded person spends more time thinking than doing, more time planning than executing, more time dreaming than committing. They start projects, but don't finish. They say yes to new beginnings, but hold on to old endings. They pray for blessings, but don't prepare for them. They ask for direction, but don't follow the instructions. They want God to do the impossible while they refuse to do the uncomfortable. That inconsistency confuses your spirit. It confuses your purpose. It confuses the energy around you. And confusion blocks progress because progress needs clarity, commitment, and follow through. Once you choose your direction, your life begins to shift. Decision creates focus. Focus creates discipline. Discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates transformation. But none of that is possible while you keep weighing every choice, doubting every move, revisiting every decision. Some people think they're stuck because they lack resources, but they're stuck because they lack certainty. They don't trust themselves, they don't trust their path, and they don't trust the process enough to fully commit. So they keep starting over instead of moving forward. Double-minded living also comes from trying to keep everyone happy. You want to grow, but you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. You want purpose, but you don't want to lose approval. You want elevation, but you don't want to outgrow people who aren't growing. That type of people-pleasing splits your identity. You become one version of yourself for others and another version for your purpose. But blessings flow to the authentic version of you, not the filtered version you use to keep peace. You cannot serve your calling and your comfort zone at the same time. To break free from double-mindedness, you must choose what matters and let everything else go. You must decide who you are and stop negotiating with yourself. You must become loyal to your purpose instead of loyal to your excuses. You must stop living in reaction mode, reacting to emotions, moods, opinions, doubts, and fears. Instead, you live from your decision. Once you decide you are committed, your emotions no longer dictate your consistency. You work when you feel like it and when you don't. You show up on good days and bad days. You stop starting over because you stop quitting. A made-up mind is unstoppable. When you fully commit, distractions lose their power. Procrastination loses its appeal. Fear loses its voice. You become someone who honors your word to yourself. You stop breaking promises you make to your own future. You start living with intention instead of impulse. People around you notice the shift because your energy becomes steady. You stop seeking approval because you already approved your path. You stop drifting because you set a direction. You stop settling because you recognize your worth. God honors commitment. Clarity creates momentum, focus, and spiritual alignment because once you know exactly what you want and why you want it, every part of your life begins to move in the same direction. Most people are not lacking talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They are lacking clarity. They wake up every day unsure of what they're supposed to be doing. They set goals that change every month. They switch priorities every week. They start projects and abandon them because confusion steals consistency. But the moment you get clear, life stops feeling heavy. You no longer waste energy on things that don't matter. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop carrying emotional weight that has nothing to do with your purpose. Clarity doesn't just give you direction, it gives you power. When you're unclear, you hesitate, you question yourself. You doubt whether you're on the right path. That doubt leads to slow movement, and slow movement leads to no movement. Progress becomes frustrating because you're trying to build a life on top of uncertainty. But when you are clear, you move with speed and purpose. You no longer second guess every choice. You no longer wonder if you're doing the right thing. You know your path, so you're walking with conviction. That conviction turns into momentum, and momentum is what separates dreamers from doers. It's not that doers are perfect. They're just clear enough to keep going. Momentum is powerful because once you start moving, it becomes easier to stay in motion. A person without clarity has to constantly push themselves just to begin. They struggle to start tasks, struggle to finish them, struggle to stay consistent. But a clear person builds routines that generate movement automatically. They wake up with purpose. They act from intention instead of reacting to emotions. Every day adds to the next. Every task builds on the last. They begin to feel progress in their spirit, and that progress becomes addictive. Momentum makes you unstoppable because you no longer rely on motivation. You rely on direction. Clarity sharpens your focus. You stop aiming at everything and start aiming at the one thing you were called to do. You stop spreading yourself thin. You stop picking up responsibilities that don't belong to you. Stop getting distracted by opportunities that look good but don't align with your purpose. Not everything that glitters is meant for you. Not every open door is your door. Not every assignment is your assignment. Clarity teaches you the power of selective focus. You start saying no with confidence because you finally know what you're saying yes to. Your energy becomes preserved for what matters, and your focus becomes a weapon instead of a weakness. When you are focused, you become frustrated, not because you lack ability, but because you expend energy on the wrong things. You try to multitask your way into success. You chase shortcuts. You get excited about ideas, but never master any of them. But clarity removes the noise. It organizes your thoughts. It silences the inner conflict that comes from trying to be too many things at once. The clearer you get, the more peaceful you become. And peace is one of the most underrated components of success. You cannot build a strong future from a chaotic mindset. You need stillness, order, and intentionality. And clarity produces all three. Clarity is also spiritual alignment. When your thoughts, actions, goals, and values are aligned, you become receptive to guidance. You hear direction more clearly. You sense when something is wrong, when something is right, when something is for you, and when something is meant to be released. Confusion makes everything sound loud. Fear screams, doubt whispers, anxiety floods your mind. But clarity quiets the noise. Spiritually, you begin to recognize what God is doing in your life. You notice the doors as our protection, not punishment. You see the delays as preparation, not denial. You see the challenges as training, not rejection. Rejection alignment means you're not fighting against your calling. You're cooperating with it. You're allowing God to guide you because you've removed the distractions that block your ability to listen. You're spending more time becoming who you were designed to be and less time pretending to be who the world expects you to be. Alignment feels like flow. Alignment feels like flow. It feels like things finally beginning to make sense. It feels like peace after years of chaos. It feels like the world is no longer against you because you are no longer working against yourself. Clarity also forces you to confront your excuses. When you don't know what you want, excuses feel believable. But when you are clear, Excuses become uncomfortable because they contradict your identity. A clear person doesn't tolerate procrastination, self-doubt, or fear-based decisions. They recognize those things as threats. They see them as enemies of their purpose. Clarity transforms your standards.